Hello, everybody. Hi. Hello. Hi, Brian. Welcome. Hi, Suisei-seki. Welcome. Hi, Papa. Welcome. We're starting on time. We are starting on time. Ha, ha, ha. Mwah, ha, ha. Nothing suspicious, I assure you. We're just on time. Hee hee. What was I gonna say? I am sad to report that I got another cut. I don't even know how I got this one. I was just doing my usual thing and then bam, it stung and I was like, ow. 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 And again, I couldn't leave because I was like, legit. It was like me and like two other people in the entire store. I was like, fudge. I'm like, well, whatever. That's fine. I'll heal my boo boo later. And then I messed up one of my nails. Like the paint literally started peeling off of my left hand index finger. I was pissed. I was like, oh. It like peeled completely too. I was like, damn. You know, and all it's fine. And then audio is good, by the way. Nice. Perfect. Glad. Oh man, what was I gonna say? Got boo boo. I peeled. Well, I didn't peel it. Whatever I was grabbing peeled it. And then what else? There was something else. No, that's it. I can't think of anything. Oh man, I was gonna say something and I'm just like blanking right now. No, I can't remember. Alright, well today we're gonna be reading. Well, I'm gonna be reading, not you guys. Y'all listen. The Valentinis listen. You go mimis. You go like achoo, achoo, achoo. Oh wait, I remember what I was gonna say. For those that aren't aware, I'm really bad. I have really bad artifacts on Genshin Impact. In fact, a lot of my supposed really good characters are not built at all. My chat already roasted me about that. Anyways, it really kicked me in the butt yesterday because if you're playing Genshin Impact, you know that there's like the summer event going on. Well, on the fights, Navia's specifically, it is so hard to get like that final 5,000 points. At least for me, it was for number 2, 3, and 4. Not it was, it is. So I found like some videos. There's one, I was like, okay, I have all these characters somewhat built, you know, except Ito. I tried with Razor. It was not working out. And I was like, darn, I guess, what was it? I guess, what was I gonna say? I said, yeah, okay, I guess I'll try and build Ito a little bit. At least get materials to level up artifacts, because I can't even level up Father's artifacts either. I mean, absolutely, the mic came into... Dude, I thought it did. I thought it did come in. The doorbell rang. I was like, what the fudge? When I got home. And it was like, it was just my book. I was like, oh, okay. I thought the mic came in. It shipped so fast. I think it shipped like less than 12 hours. I was like, what the fudge? Anywhoosies. Yeah, I'm gonna try and like level up Ito's artifacts so I can maybe get through part 2, because then as long as I get like one of them, I can try and figure out the other 2. But yeah. Alright, we're just gonna be reading something real simple. Just the complete tales of Winnie-the-Pooh. Just a real simple, lovely kid story. You know, just so everybody's relaxed, you know. Just, yeah. Alright. This is a very big book. Let me move my keyboard. I know they prioritize expensive stuff, but still do know that was crazy. That was crazy. For those that don't know, Bubba, the crazy toast that he is, bought us the Rode O05 mics for ASMR from Throne. Well, technically Amazon. It's through Throne from Amazon. And it got shipped like yesterday morning. And he had gotten it like the night before. It was really crazy. I was like, what the fudge? Absolutely wild. Anyways, this is a very hefty book. If you want to know what the pictures look like, or if you want to like hear Lena read it, there is streams available. We're gonna skip the author and stuff. We're just gonna dive right in. Hold on, where's the thingy? Ah, here we go. Okay, we're at chapter 1. You guys probably hear like the page flips, maybe. Alright. Alright. Are you guys ready? And it's okay if you fall asleep. You're supposed to fall asleep. And it's okay if this is like, why am I listening to ASMR of a children's book? Why not? Hey, it's a simple, easy story. Your brain doesn't have to process it. It's very simple. You just call me Miss. You go achoo, achoo. Alright. Chapter 1, in which we're introduced to Winnie-the-Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin. Here's Edward Bear coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump. On the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie-the-Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you're going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie? I don't. But you said he's Winnie-the-Pooh. Don't you know that there means? I'm already very confused. I should have asked Lena for a heads up. She could have like just, let me know what's up. Because I am so confused. Yes, now I do, I said quickly. I hope you do too. Because it's all the explanation you're going to get. Oh gee, thank you, author. I appreciate that. Sometimes Winnie-the-Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs. And sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening... What about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Christopher Robin, what sort of bear is that? Hi, Julio. Welcome. I like your voice. Almost just the murmur of the rain without meaning to, I think of you. Oh, thank you. But hello, welcome. Well, seriously, what kind of a bear does Christopher Robin mean? Alright. Oh, I see. So, could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in golden letters and lived under it. Winnie-the-Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree there was a loud buzzing noise. Winnie-the-Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. Hi, Luke. Welcome, welcome, Potato. Tell Sophie we say hello, and that we miss her. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning something. There's a buzzing noise. Somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. That was a very long paragraph to explain there's bees. Then he thought another long time and said, the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. Then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed, and he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. When he climbed up a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further, by that time he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if bears were bees, he wouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. What stairs? There's no stairs on trees. Pooh, that doesn't make any sense. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now. If he just stood on that branch, crack. Oh, help, said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. If only I hadn't, he said as he bounced 20 feet on the next branch. You see what I meant to do, he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed to another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do, of course it was rather, he admitted as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help! He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. The first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an odd voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie-the-Pooh went around to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie-the-Pooh, said you. I wonder if you got such a thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for, you said. Winnie-the-Pooh looked around to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, Honey. But you don't get honey with balloons. I do, said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like? Said Pooh. Asked Pooh, my bad. Damn that honey. Honey. My sweet honey. Alright. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. It's like this, he said. When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you're only part of the sky and not notice you. The question is, which is most likely? Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon, you asked? They might, or they might not, said Winnie-the-Pooh. You never can tell with bees. Thought for a moment, said, I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them. And you had better have the blue balloon, you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did, and Winnie-the-Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of, and rolled until he was all black all over, and then, when the balloon was blown up as big, and you and Pooh were both holding onto the string, you let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up in the sky and stayed there, level at the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. Hooray, you shouted. Isn't that fine? Shouted Winnie-the-Pooh down to you. What do I look like? You look like a bear holding onto a balloon, you said. Not, said Pooh anxiously. Not like a small black cloud in the blue sky? Not very much. Well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And as I say, you can never tell with bees. There was no wind to blow him near to the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. Christopher Robin, he said in a loud whisper. Hello? I think the bees suspect something. What sort of thing? I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious. Perhaps they think that you're after their honey. It may be that. You never can tell with bees. There's another little silence, and then he called down to you again. Christopher Robin. Yes? Have you an umbrella in your house? I think so. I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look up at me every now and then and say, tut tut, looks like rain. I think if you did that, it would help the deception which you are practicing on these bees. Well, you laughed to yourself. Silly old bear. Sophie says she misses you too. Aww, we miss Sophie. Tell Sophie we want to give her a big hug. Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear, but you didn't say it aloud because you're so fond of him you went home for your umbrella. Oh, there you are, called down Winnie-the-Pooh, as soon as you got back to the tree. I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up, you said? Yes, but wait a moment. You must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down there? No. A pity. Well, now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, "Tut, tut, looks like rain," I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, as such a cloud might sing. Go. So I walked up and down and wondered if it would rain. Winnie-the-Pooh sang a song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nests and flew all around the cloud as it began the second verse of this song. And one bee sat down the nose of the cloud for a moment and then got up again. Christopher, ow, Robin, called out the cloud. Yes? I've just been thinking, and I've come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sort of bees. Are they? Quite the wrong sort, so I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey. Shouldn't you? I like how Pooh is trying to rationalize, like, oh, what if these are like the wrong kind of bees? They're not gonna make good honey, you know? Like maybe I shouldn't get the honey. Would they? Yes, so I think I shall come down. How? Asked you. Winnie-the-Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go of the string, he would fall. Bump, and he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got a gun? Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, I will spoil the balloon, you said. But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me. When you put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow, said Pooh. Did I miss? You asked. You didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said. You fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie-the-Pooh floated down to the ground. But his arms were so stiff from holding on to the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week. Whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off. And I think, but I'm not sure, that is why he is always called Pooh. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others. About Pooh and me, and Piglet, and Rabbit, and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember. And then when I try to remember, I forget. It's okay, Christopher Robin. It happens all the time. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump. They didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember he said. Only Pooh doesn't very well, so that's why he likes having it told to him again. 'Cause that's real story, not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked up his bear by the leg, and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, "Going to see me have my bath?" "I might," I said. "I didn't hurt when I shot him, did I?" "Not one bit." He nodded and went out. In a moment, I heard Winnie-the-Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. Chapter 2. Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie-the-Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises in front of the glass. Tra-la-la, as he stretched up as high as he could, and then tra-la-la, oh, help, la, as he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast he had said it over and over to himself until he had learnt it by heart. Now he was humming it right through properly. It went like this. Tra-la-la, 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 rum-tum, tiddle, hum-tum, tiddle, iddle, tiddle, iddle, tiddle, iddle, tiddle, iddle, rum-tum, tum, tiddle, Well, he was humming this hum to himself and walking along gaily, wondering what everybody else was doing, what it felt like being somebody else, when suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. "Aha," said Pooh, rum-tum-tiddle, tum. "If I know anything about anything, the hole means rabbit," he said, "and rabbit means company," he said, "and company means food and listening to me hum, and such like. Rum-tum-tum, tiddle-hum." So he bent down and put his head into the hole and called out, "Is anybody at home?" There was a sudden scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then silence. "What I said was, 'Is anybody at home?'" called out Pooh very loudly. "No," said a voice, and then added, "You needn't shout so loud. I heard you quite well the first time." "Bother," said Pooh. "Isn't there anybody here at all?" "Nobody." Winnie-the-Pooh shook his head out of the hole, thought for a little, and he thought to himself, there must be somebody there, because somebody must have said nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, "Hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you?" "No," said Rabbit, in a different sort of voice this time. "But isn't that Rabbit's voice?" "I don't think so," said Rabbit. "It isn't meant to be." "Oh," said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think. Then he put it back and said, "Well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is?" "He has gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a great friend of his." "But this is me," said Bear, very much surprised. "What sort of me?" "Pooh Bear." "Are you sure?" said Rabbit, still more surprised. Quite sure," said Pooh. "Oh, well then, come in." So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got in. "You were quite right," said Rabbit, looking at him all over. "It is you. Glad to see you." "Who did you think I was?" "Well, I wasn't sure. You know how it is in the forest. One can't have anybody coming into one's home. One has to be careful. What about a mouthful of something?" Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out plates and mugs, and then Rabbit said, "Honey or condensed milk with your bread?" He was so excited that he said both, and then as soon as he seemed greedy, he added, "But don't bother about the bread, please." For a long time after that he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said he must be going on. "Must you?" said Rabbit politely. "Well," said Pooh, "I could stay a little longer if you," and he tried very hard to look in the direction of the larder. "As a matter of fact," said Rabbit, "I was going out myself directly." "Oh, well then I'll be going on. Goodbye." "Well, goodbye, if you're sure you won't have any more." "Is there any more?" said Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes and said no, there wasn't. "I thought not," said Pooh, nodding to himself. "Well, goodbye, I must be going on." So he started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws and pushed with his back paws, and in a little while his nose was out in the open again. And then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then... "Oh, help," said Pooh. "I'd better go back." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "I shall have to go on." "I can't do either," said Pooh. "Oh, help and bother." Now, by the time Rabbit wanted to go for a walk too and find the front door full, he went out by the back door and came round to Pooh, looked at him. "Hello, are you stuck?" he asked. "No," said Pooh carelessly. "Just resting and thinking and humming to myself." "Here, give us a paw." Pooh stretched out a paw. Rabbit pulled and pulled and pulled. "Ow," cried Pooh, "you're hurting me." "The fact is," said Rabbit, "you're stuck." "It all comes," said Pooh crossly, "of not having front doors big enough." "It all comes," said Rabbit sternly, "of eating too much." "I thought at the time," said Rabbit, "only I didn't like to say anything," said Rabbit, "and that one of us was eating too much," said Rabbit, "and I knew it wasn't me," he said. "Well, well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin." Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit, saw the front half of Pooh, he said, "Silly old bear," in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful about it. "I was just beginning to think," said Bear, sniffing slightly, "that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again, and I should hate that," he said. "So should I," said Rabbit. "Use his front door again?" said Christopher Robin. "Of course he'll use his front door again." "Good," said Rabbit. "If we can't pull you out, Pooh, we might just push you back." Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that when once Pooh was pushed back, he was back, and of course nobody was more glad to see Pooh than he was. Still, there it was, some lived in trees and some lived underground, and... "You mean I'd never get out?" said Pooh. "I mean," said Rabbit, "that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it." I'm gonna have to pause because I'm actually getting like really sleepy. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Ow. Oh my gosh. Did I just get another paper cut? I did. Damn it. Ow. I got a paper cut. I accidentally punched the edge of the pages. Oh. You would think reading aloud would not make you so sleepy. But it does. It makes me so sleepy. It's either that or I'm still kind of tired from last night. try to go to bed early because I had work earlier than usual. Duh. It was so hot. I think it was like 90 something degrees last night. I'm not joking. I think it was probably like 94 degrees last night, 93. Oh my god, it was so hot. I kept waking up. Finally put my fan on low and just like covered my feet with my blanket. I just kept hoping, oh my god, Antonia, don't get sick. Don't get sick. And I just try to sleep. But yeah, it could be that. I don't know. We'll see. But I am getting pretty sleepy. Oh man. I gotta do like something to like wake me up because oh my goodness. All right. All right. Christopher Robin nodded. Hi, Dio. Welcome, welcome. There's only one thing to be done, he said. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. About a week, I should think. But I can't stay here for a week. You can stay here all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out which is so difficult. We'll read to you, said Rabbit cheerfully, and I hope it won't snow, he added. And I say, old fellow, you're taking up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because I mean, they are doing nothing, and it would be very very convenient just to hang the towels on them. A week, said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin. Because of getting thin quicker, we will read to you. Bear began to sigh and then found he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck. And a tear rolled down his eye as he said, tear, not tear, tear. Then would you read a sustaining book, such as would help and comfort a wedge bear in a great tightness? So for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh, and Rabbit hung his washing on the south end. And in between, Bear felt himself getting slender and slender, and at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, Now! Hi, Ty, welcome, welcome. So he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took a hold of Christopher Robin, and all Rabbit's friends and relations took a hold of Rabbit, and they all pulled together. For a long time, Pooh said, Ow! And oh! And then all of a sudden he said, Pop! Just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on the top of them came Winnie-the-Pooh free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself, but Christopher Robin looked after him, not lovingly, and said to himself, Silly old bear. Oh my goodness. Is it like common if an ASMR artist like falls asleep in between? Is that like a thing they do? Just out of genuine curiosity. I guess should I read until I nod off? Because oh my gosh, I'm like getting so sleepy. So sleepy. Okay. You got this, Antonia. You got this. No more memes. Don't fall asleep. You're okay. Come on. Just will yourself to go. Will it. Go. Antonia, go. Alright. I love this story as a child. Nice. It is a really cute story. It is confusing at some bits, but it is very cute. Chapter 3. Pooh and Piglet go hunting and nearly catch a woozle. Oh, they don't have nightmares. Nah. It's Winnie-the-Pooh. Why would Winnie-the-Pooh give me nightmares? Okay. The piglet lived in a very grand house in the middle of a beech tree, and the beech tree was in the middle of the forest, and the piglet lived in the middle of the house. Next to his house was a piece of broken board which had Trespassers W on it. When Christopher Robin asked the piglet what it meant, he said it was his grandfather's name. It had been in the family for a long time. Christopher Robin said you couldn't get called Trespassers W. Piglet said yes you could, because his grandfather was, and it was short for Trespassers Will, which was short for Trespassers William, and his grandfather had two names in case he lost one. The Trespassers after an uncle, and William after the Trespassers. I've got two names, said Christopher Robin carelessly. Well, there you are. That proves it, said Piglet. One fine winter's day when Piglet was brushing away the snow in front of his house, he happened to look up and there was Pooh Bear. Pooh was walking round and round in a circle, thinking of something else, and when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. Hello, said Piglet. What are you doing? Hunting, said Pooh. Hunting what? Tracking something, said Winnie-the-Pooh very mysteriously. Tracking what? Said Piglet coming along. That's just what I asked myself. I asked myself what? What do you think you'll answer? I shall have to wait until I catch up with it, said Winnie-the-Pooh. Now look there, he pointed on the ground in front of him. What do you see there? Tracks, said Piglet. Paw tracks. He gave a little squeak of excitement. Oh, Pooh, do you think a woozle? Maybe, said Pooh. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You never can tell with paw marks. When you heard me do like that loud pause for a second, that was me falling asleep. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so sleepy. Oh. What if I just took a short nap and you guys just like listen to ocean music? Just kidding. Oh man. Like I can just go to bed right now. I can go to bed right now. With these few words, he went on tracking, and Piglet, after watching for a minute or two, ran after him. Winnie-the-Pooh had come to a sudden stop, and was bending over the tracks in a puzzled sort of way. Hello, dog. Welcome. I am Eepy. What's the matter? Asked Piglet. A very funny thing, said the bear. But there seems to be two animals now. This, whatever it is, has been joined by another, whatever it is, and the two of them are now proceeding in company. Would you mind coming with me, Piglet, in case they turn out to be hostile animals? I am getting sleepy. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so sleepy. Piglet scratched his ear in a nice sort of way, said that he had nothing to do until Friday. It would be delighted to come in case it really was a woozle. You mean in case it really is two woozles? Said Winnie-the-Pooh, and Piglet said that anyhow he had nothing to do until Friday, so off they went together. There was a small spiny of larch trees just here, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were, had been going around the spiny. So around the spiny went Pooh and Piglet after them. Piglet passing the time by telling Pooh what his grandfather Trespassers W had done to remove stiffness after tracking, and how his grandfather Trespass W had suffered in his later years from shortness of breath and other matters of interest. Sound like she's about to pass out, probably. I thought reading aloud was supposed to wake you up, but it's like making me sleepy. I hope y'all fall asleep first before I fall asleep. Oh no, my fan died. Gotta plug that in. Okay. And Pooh wondering what a grandfather was like, and if perhaps this was two grandfathers they were after now, and if so, whether he'd be allowed to take one home and keep it. You can't keep that, Pooh. And what Christopher Robin would say, and still the tracks went on in front of them. Suddenly, Winnie-the-Pooh stopped, pointing silently from him. "Look!" "What?" said Piglet with a jump. And then to show that he hadn't been frightened, he jumped up and down once or twice in an exercising sort of way. "The track," said Pooh. "A third animal has joined the other two." "Pooh," cried Piglet, "do you think it's another woozle?" "No," said Pooh, "'cause it makes it different marks. It is either two woozles in one, as it might be Whizzle, or two, as it might be Whizzles and one, if not. So, if so it is woozleless to follow them." So they come on, feeling just a little anxious now. In the case of the three animals in front of them were of hostile intent, and Piglet wished very much that his grandfather TW were there instead of elsewhere, and Pooh thought how nice it would be if they met Christopher Robin suddenly, but quite accidentally, and only because he liked Christopher Robin so much. And it stopped again. And then all of a sudden, Winnie-the-Pooh stopped again, licked the tip of his nose in a cooling manner, for there was feeling more of a hot and anxious than ever in his life before. There were four animals in front of them. Oh my gosh, that scared me. Why is Lena calling for me? Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Alright. Up, 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 up. I'm a lot more awake now. Okay. I think I just need to stand up. Alright. Where were we? Alright. So it seemed to be there were tracks crossing over each other here, getting muddled up with each other there, but quite plainly every now and then the tracks of 4 sets of paws. I think, said Piglet when he had licked the tip of his nose too, and found that it brought very little comfort. I think I've just remembered something. I've just remembered something that I forgot to do yesterday and shan't be able to do tomorrow. So I suppose I really ought to go back and do it now. We'll do it this afternoon, and I'll come with you, said Pooh. It isn't the sort of thing you can do in the afternoon, said Piglet quickly. It's a very particular morning thing that has to be done in the morning. And if possible, between the hours of... What would you say the time was? About 12, said Winnie-the-Pooh, looking at the sun. Between, as I was saying, the hours of 12 and 12:05. So really, dear old Pooh, if you'll excuse me... What's that? Pooh looked up at the sky, and then as he heard the whistle again, he looked up into the branches of a big oak tree, and then he saw a friend of his. It's Christopher Robin, he said. Oh, then you'll be all right, said Piglet. You'll be quite safe with him. Goodbye. And he trotted off home as quickly as he could, and very gladly to be out of all danger again. Almost be lurking. I feel sickness come. Oh no. Hi, Feilong. Welcome, welcome. I hope you feel better. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Triangle Mimi says you listen to the story. I was going Mimi's right now. Like I was falling asleep. Like pretty bad. Actually, that was the reason that was probably one of the main reasons I stopped reading, is because I was falling asleep. All right. Christopher Robin came slowly down the tree. Silly old bear, he said. What were you doing? First you went around Spiny twice by yourself, and then Piglet ran after you, and you went around again together. And then you were just going around a 4th time. Wait a moment, said Winnie-the-Pooh, holding up his paw. He sat down and thought, in the most thoughtful way he could think. Then he fitted his paw into one of the tracks, and then he scratched his nose twice and stood up. Yes, said Winnie-the-Pooh. I see now, said Winnie-the-Pooh. I have been foolish and deluded, said he, and I am a bear of no brain at all. You're the best bear in the world, said Christopher Robin soothingly. Am I? Said Pooh hopefully, and then he brightened up suddenly. Anyhow, he said, it is nearly lunch on time? So he went home for it. Oh no, Ty, I'm sorry that you hurt your back. But you're feeling better? Now, yeah, I started feeling better. Okay. That's good. I'm so sorry I hurt your back. And back aches, it's just, those are not fun at all. You really gotta let it relax, or do like a hot and cold kind of thing. Or if you have one of those massage machine thingies, put that on. Just don't bruise yourself. My father bruised himself last time. Alright. Chapter 4. Eeyore loses a tail and Pooh finds one. The old grey donkey Eeyore stood by himself in a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart, his head on one side, and thought about things. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, why? Sometimes he thought, wherefore? Sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? Strange word. Sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking about. So when Winnie-the-Pooh came stumping along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to stop thinking for a little in order to say, "How do you do?" in a gloomy manner to him. "And how are you?" said Winnie-the-Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. "Not very how," he said. "I don't seem to have felt at all how for a long time." "Dear, dear," said Pooh, "I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at you." So Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie-the-Pooh walked all around him once. "Why, what's happened to your tail?" he said in surprise. "Put hot water balls on your back?" "Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes hot and cold help, where you just like put the heat, take it off, put the heat, you know." "What has happened to it?" said Eeyore. "It isn't there." "Are you sure?" "Well, either a tail is there or it isn't there. You can't make a mistake about it, and yours isn't there." "Then what is?" "Nothing." "Let's have a look," said Eeyore. He turned slowly around to the place where his tail had been a little while ago. Then finding that he couldn't catch it up, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was at first. Then he put his head down, looked between his front legs. At last he said with a long, sad sigh, "I believe you're right." "Of course I'm right," said Pooh. "That accounts for a good deal," said Eeyore gloomily. "It explains everything. No wonder." "You must have left it somewhere," said Winnie-the-Pooh. "Somebody must have taken it," said Eeyore. "How like them," he added after a long silence. Pooh felt that he ought to say something helpful about it, but didn't quite know what. So he decided to do something helpful instead. "Eeyore," he said solemnly, "I, Winnie-the-Pooh, will find you your tail for you." "Thank you, Pooh," answered Eeyore. "You're a real friend," said he. "Not like some," he said. So Winnie-the-Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he started out. Little soft clouds played happily in a blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun as if they had come to put it out, and then sliding away suddenly so that the next might have this turn. Through them and between them the sun shone bravely, and a copse which had worn its furs all the year round seemed old and dowdy now beside the new green lace which the beeches had put on so prettily. Through copse and spinney marched Bear, down open slopes of gorse and heather, over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone to the heather again, and so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood. For it was in the 100-acre wood that Owl lived. "If anyone knows anything about anything," said Bear to himself, "it's Owl who knows something about something," he said. "Or my name's not Winnie-the-Pooh," he said. "Which it is," he added. So there you are. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old world residence of great charm which was grander than anybody else's, or seemed so to Bear, because it had both a knocker and a bell pull. Underneath the knocker there was a notice which said, "Please ring if a rancher is required." Underneath the bell pull was a notice which said, "Please knock if an rancher is not required." Or how it was meant to be read was, "Please ring if an answer is required." please knock if an answer is not required. These notes had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. For Owl, wise though he was many ways, able to read and write and spell his own name, Wol, W-O-L, he had somehow went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. Winnie-the-Pooh read the 2 notices very carefully, first from left to right, and afterwards, in case he had missed some of it, from right to left. Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called out in a very loud voice, "Owl, I require an answer. It's Bear speaking." And the door opened and Owl looked out. "Hello, Pooh," he said. "How's things?" "Terrible and sad," said Pooh, "because Eeyore, who's a friend of mine, has lost his tail. And he's moping about. So could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him?" "Well," said Owl, "the customary procedure in such cases is as follows." "What does crustamony and proceed cake mean?" said Pooh, "for I am a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me." "It means the thing to do." "As long as it means that, I don't mind," said Pooh humbly. "Just a moment," said Pooh. Oh, wait, I skipped a line, my bad. "The thing to do as follows. First, issue a reward. Then—" "Just a moment," said Pooh, holding up his paw. "What do we do to this? What you were saying?" "You sneezed just as if you were going to tell me." "I didn't sneeze." "Yes, you did, Owl." "Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it." "Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed." "What I said was, first issue a reward." "You're doing it again," said Pooh sadly. "A reward," said Owl very loudly. "We write a notice to say that we will give a large something to anybody who finds Eeyore's tail." I see," said Pooh, nodding his head. "Talking about large somethings," he went on dreamily. "I generally have a small something about now, about this time in the morning." And he looked wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. "Just a mouthful of condensed milk or whatnot, with perhaps a lick of honey." "Well then," said Owl, "we write out this notice and we put it up all over the forest." "A lick of honey," murmured Bear to himself. Or not, as the case may be, and he gave a deep sigh, and tried very hard to listen to what Owl was saying. But Owl went on and on, using longer and longer words, until at last he came back to where he started. He explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. "It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Did you see them, Pooh?" For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no in turn, with his eyes shut to all that Owl was saying, and said yes, yes. Last time he said no, not at all. Now without really knowing what Owl was talking about. "Didn't you see them?" said Owl, a little surprised. "Come and look at them now." So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and the notice below. And he looked at the bell rope and the notice below it. And the more he looked at the bell rope, the more he felt he had seen something like that. Somewhere, sometime before. "Handsome bell rope, isn't it?" said Owl. Pooh nodded. "Reminds you of something," he said. "But I can't think what. Where did you get it?" "I just came across it in the forest. I was hanging over a bush and I thought for somebody lived there, so I rang it. and nothing happened, and then I rang it again very loudly, and it came off in my hand. As nobody seemed to want it, I took it home and... Owl, said Pooh solemnly, you made a mistake. Somebody did want it. Who? Eeyore, my friend Eeyore. He was fond of it. Fond of it? Attached to it, said Winnie-the-Pooh sadly. So at these words he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore. And when Christopher Robin had nailed it on its right place again, Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie-the-Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. Wiping his mouth half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly, "Who found the tail? I said Pooh, at 2:15. Oh, it was only it was 11:15, really. I found the tail." Chapter 5. One day when Christopher Robin and Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet were all talking together, Christopher Robin finished the mouthful he was eating and said carelessly, "I saw a heffalump today, Piglet." "What was it doing?" asked Piglet. "Just lumping along," said Christopher Robin. "I don't think it saw me." "I saw one once," said Piglet. "At least I think I did," he said. "Only perhaps it wasn't." "So did I," said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. "You don't often see them," said Christopher Robin carelessly. "Not now," said Piglet. "Not at this time of year," said Pooh. But they all talked about something else until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together. At first they stumped along the path which edged the 100-acre wood. They didn't say much to each other, but when they came to the stream and had helped each other across the stepping stones and were able to walk side by side again over the heather, they began to talk in a friendly way about this and that, and Piglet said, "If you see what I mean, Pooh," and Pooh said, "It's just what I think myself, Piglet," and Piglet said, "But on the other hand, Pooh, we must remember," and Pooh said, "Quite true, Piglet, although I had forgotten it for the moment." And just as they came to the 6 pine trees, Pooh looked around to see that nobody else was listening and said in a very solemn voice, "Piglet, I've decided something." "What have you decided, Pooh?" "I've decided to catch a heffalump." Pooh nodded his head several times as he said this, and waited for Piglet to say, "How?" or "Pooh, you couldn't," or something helpful of that sort. But Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought about it first. "I shall do it," said Pooh after waiting a little longer, "by means of a trap. It must be a cunning trap, so you'll have to help me, Piglet." "Pooh," said Piglet, feeling quite happy again now, "I will." And they said, "How shall we do it?" And Pooh said, "That's just it. How?" Then they sat down together to think about it. Pooh's first idea was that they could dig a very deep pit. Then the heffalump would come along and fall into the pit, and... "Why?" said Piglet. "Why what?" said Pooh. "Why would he fall in?" Pooh rubbed his nose with his paw and said the heffalump might be walking along, humming a little song and looking up at the sky, wondering if it would rain, so he wouldn't see the very deep pit till he was halfway down and it would be too late. Piglet said that it was a very good trap, but supposing it were raining already? Pooh rubbed his nose again and said that he hadn't thought of that. Then he brightened up and that said if it was raining already, the heffalump would be looking at the sky, wondering if it would clear up. And so he wouldn't see the very deep pit till he was halfway down, when it would be too late. Piglet said that now that this point had been explained, he thought it was a cunning trap. Pooh was very proud when he heard this, and he felt that the heffalump was as good as caught already. But there's just one other thing which had to be thought about, and it was this. Where should they dig the very deep pit? Piglet said that the best place would be somewhere where a heffalump was, just before he fell into it, only about a foot farther on. But then he would see us digging it, said Pooh. Not if he was looking at the sky. He would suspect, said Pooh. If he happened to look down, he thought for a long time and then added sadly, "It isn't as easy as I thought. I suppose that's why heffalumps hardly ever get caught." "That must be it," said Piglet. They sighed and got up, and when they had taken a few gorse pickles out of themselves, they sat down again. And all the time Pooh was saying to himself, "If only I could think of something." For he felt sure that a very clear brain could catch a heffalump if only he knew the right way to go about it. "Suppose," he said to Piglet, "you wanted to catch me. How would you do it?" "Well," said Piglet, "I should do it like this. I should make a trap, and I should put a jar of honey in the trap, and you would smell it, and you would go in after it, and I would go in after it," said Pooh excitedly, "only very carefully so as not to hurt myself. And I would get to the jar of honey, and I should lick around the edges first of all, pretending that there wasn't any more, you know, and then I should walk away and think about it a little, and then I should come back and start licking in the middle of the jar, and then, yes, well, never mind about that. There you would be, and there I should catch you. Now the first thing to think of is, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you? We'll get a lot of—" "I said wake up, Pooh." Pooh, who had gone to the happy dream, woke up with a start, and said honey was much more trappy than any acorns. Piglet didn't think so, and they were just going to argue about it, when Piglet remembered that if they put acorns in the trap, he would have to find the acorns. But if they put honey, then Pooh would have to give up some of his own honey, so he said, "All right, honey then," just as Pooh remembered it too, was going to say, "All right, acorns." "Honey," said Piglet to himself in a thoughtful way, as if it were now settled. "I'll dig the pit while you go and get the honey." "Very well," said Pooh, and he stumped off. As soon as he got home, he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair, and took down a very large jar of honey from the top shelf. It had honey written on it, but just to make sure he took off the paper cover and looked at it, and it looked just like honey. "Well, you never can tell," said Pooh. "Hi, Sean. Welcome. I remember my uncle saying once he had seen cheese just like this color." So he put his tongue in and took a large lick. "Yes," he said, "it is. No doubt about that. And honey, I should say, right down to the bottom of the jar. Unless, of course," he said, "somebody put cheese at the bottom just for a joke. Perhaps I had better go a little further, just in case heffalumps don't like cheese. Same as me. Ah," and he gave a deep sigh, "I was right. It is honey, right the way down." Having made certain of this, he took the jar back to Piglet. Piglet looked up from the bottom of the very deep pit and said, "Got it?" And Pooh said, "Yes, but it isn't quite a full jar." And he threw it down to Piglet. Piglet said, "No, it isn't. Is that all you've got left?" And Pooh said, "Yes," because it was. So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit and climbed out, and they went off home together. "Well, good night, Pooh," said Piglet. when they had got to Pooh's house, and we meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning by the pine trees and see how many heffalumps we got in our trap. Piglet, 6 a.m. is way too early. I would not. I'll meet you at 11. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, Piglet. And have you got any strings? String? No, why do you want string? To lead them home with. Oh, I think heffalumps come if you whistle. Some do, some don't. You never can tell with heffalumps. Well, good night. Good night. And off Piglet tried to his house, Trespassers W. While Pooh made his preparations for bed. Some hours later, just as the night was beginning to steal away, Pooh woke up suddenly with a sinking feeling. He had had that sinking feeling before, and he knew what it meant. He was hungry. So he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and reached up to the top shelf and found nothing. That's funny, he thought. I know I had a jar of honey here, a full jar, full of honey right up to the top, and it had honey written on it, so that I should know that it was honey. That's very funny. Then he began to wander up and down, wondering what it was, and murmuring a murmur to himself like this. It's very, very funny, 'cause I know I had some honey, 'cause it had a label on it saying honey. A galoptrus full up pot too, and I don't know where it's got to. No, I don't know where it's gone. Well, it's funny. He had murmured this to himself 3 times in a singing sort of way, and suddenly he remembered he had put into the cunning trap to catch the heffalump. Bother, said Pooh, it all comes of trying to be kind to heffalumps, and he got back into bed. But he couldn't sleep. The more he tried to sleep, the more he couldn't. He tried counting sheep, which is sometimes a good way of getting to sleep, and that was no good. He tried counting heffalumps, and that was worse, 'cause every heffalump that he counted was making straight for a pot of Pooh's honey, and eating it all. For some minutes he lay there miserably, but then the 587th heffalump was licking its jaw, saying to itself, very good honey this. I don't know when I've tasted better. And Pooh could bear it no longer. He jumped out of bed, he ran out of the house, and he ran straight to the 6 pine trees. The sun was still in bed, but there was a lightness in the sky over the 100-acre wood, which seemed to show that it was waking up and would soon be kicking off the clothes. In the half-light, the pine trees looked cold and lonely, and the very deep pit seemed deeper than it was, and Pooh's jar of honey at the bottom was something mysterious. A shape and no more, but as he got nearer to its nose, told him that it was indeed honey, and his tongue came out and began to polish up his mouth ready for it. Bother, said Pooh as he got his nose inside the jar. A heffalump has been eating it. Then he thought a little and said, oh no, I did. I forgot. Indeed, he had been eating most of it. But there was a little left at the bottom of the jar, and he pushed his head right and began to lick. By and by, Piglet woke up. As soon as he woke, he said to himself, oh, he said bravely, yes, and then still more bravely, quite so. So he didn't feel very brave, for the word which was really jiggiting about in his brain was heffalumps. What was a heffalump like? Was it fierce? Did it come when you whistled? And how did it come? Was it fond of pigs at all? If it was fond of pigs, did it make any difference what sort of pig? Supposing it was fierce with pigs, would it make any difference if The pig had a grandfather called Trespassers William. He didn't know the answer to any of those questions, and he was going to see his first heffalump in about an hour from now. Of course, Pooh would be with him, and it was much more friendly with two. But suppose heffalumps were very fierce with pigs and bears? Wouldn't it be better to pretend that he had a headache and couldn't go up to the 6 pine trees this morning? But then suppose that it was a very fine day and there was no heffalump in the trap. Here he would be in bed all morning, simply wasting his time for nothing. What should he do? And then he had a clever idea. He would go up very quietly to the 6 pine trees now, peep very cautiously into the trap, and see if there was a heffalump. And if there was, he would go back to bed, and if there wasn't, he wouldn't. So off he went, and at first he thought that there wouldn't be a heffalump in the trap. And then he thought that there would. And then he got nearer. He was sure that there would be, because he could hear it heffalumping about like anything. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear," said Piglet to himself, and he wanted to run away. But somehow, having got so near, he felt that he must just see what a heffalump was like. So he crept to the side of the trap and looked in. And all the time Winnie-the-Pooh had been trying to get the honey jar pot off his head. The more he shook it, the more tightly it stuck. "Bother," he said inside the jar, and "oh help," and mostly "ow." And he tried bumping it against things, but as he couldn't see what he was bumping it against, it didn't help him. And he tried to climb out of the trap, but as he couldn't see nothing but jar, and not much of that, he couldn't find his way. So at last he lifted up his head, jar and all, made a loud roaring noise of sadness and despair. And it was at that moment that Piglet looked down. "Help! Help!" cried Piglet. "A heffalump! A horrible heffalump!" And he scampered off as hard as he could, still crying, "Help! Help! A horrible heffalump! Hoff, hoff, a hellable heffalump! Hull, hull, a hoffable hellufurump!" And he didn't stop crying and scampering till he got to Christopher Robin's house. "Whatever's the matter, Piglet?" said Christopher Robin, who was just getting up. "Heff," said Piglet, breathing so hard that he could hardly speak. "A hell, a heff, a heffalump." "Where?" "Up there," said Piglet, waving his paw. "What did it look like?" Like, it had the biggest head you ever saw, Christopher Robin, and a great enormous thing, like nothing, a huge big, well, I don't know, like an enormous big nothing, like a jar." "Well," said Christopher Robin, putting on his shoes, I shall go and look at it. Come on." Piglet wasn't afraid if he had Christopher Robin with him, so they went. "I can hear it, can't you?" said Piglet anxiously as they got near. "I can hear something," said Christopher Robin. It was Pooh bumping his head against a tree root he had found. "There, said Piglet, "isn't it awful?" And he held on tight to Christopher Robin's hand. Suddenly, Christopher Robin began to laugh, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed. And while he was still laughing, crash went the heffalum's head against the tree root. Smash went the jar, and out came Pooh's head again. When Piglet saw what a foolish pig he had been, and he was so ashamed of himself that he ran straight off home and went to bed with a headache. But Christopher Robin and Pooh went home to breakfast together. "Oh, Bear," said Christopher Robin, "how I do love you." "So do I," said Pooh. Chapter 6. Eeyore has a birthday and gets 2 presents. Eeyore, the old gray donkey, stood by the side of the stream and looked at himself in the water. Pathetic, he said. That's what it is. Pathetic. He turned and walked slowly down the stream for 20 yards, splashed across it, and walked slowly back to the other side. Then he looked at himself in the water again. As I thought, he said, no better from this side, but nobody minds. Nobody cares. Pathetic, that's what it is. There's a crackling noise in the bracken behind him, and out came Pooh. Good morning, Eeyore, said Pooh. Good morning, Pooh Bear, said Eeyore gloomily. If it is a good morning, he said. Which I doubt, he said. Why, what's the matter? Nothing, Pooh Bear, nothing. We can't all, and some of us don't. That's all there is to it. Can't all what? Said Pooh, rubbing his nose. Gaiety, song and dance. Here we go around the mulberry bush. Oh, said Pooh, and he thought for a long time and then asked, what mulberry bush is that? Bonhominy. Bonhomie? Went on Eeyore gloomily. French word meaning bonhomie, he said. I'm not complaining, but there it is. Pooh sat down on a large rock and tried to think this out. It sounded to him like a riddle. He was never much good at riddles, being a bear of very little brain, so he sang Cottlestone Pie instead. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. A fly can't bird, but a bird can fly. Ask me a riddle, and I reply. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. That was the first verse. When he had finished it, Eeyore didn't actually say that he didn't like it. So Pooh very kindly sang the second verse to him. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. A fish can't whistle, and neither can I. Ask me a riddle, and I reply. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. Eeyore still said nothing at all, so Pooh hummed the third verse quietly to himself. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. Why does a chicken? I don't know why. Ask me a riddle, and I reply. Cottlestone, Cottlestone, Cottlestone Pie. That's right, said Eeyore. Sing, umpty tiddly umpty too. Here we go gathering nuts in May. Enjoy yourself. I am, said Pooh. Some can, said Eeyore. Why, what's the matter? Is anything the matter? You seem so sad, Eeyore. Sad? Why should I be sad? It's my birthday, the happiest day of the year. Your birthday? Said Pooh in surprise. Of course it is. Can't you see? Look at all the presents I have had. Waved a foot from side to side. Look at the birthday cake. Candles and pink sugar. Pooh looked, first to the right, and then to the left. Presents? Said Pooh. Birthday cake? Said Pooh. Where? Can't you see them? No, said Pooh. Neither can I, said Eeyore. Joke, he explained. Ha, ha. Pooh scratched his head, being a little puzzled by all this. But is it really your birthday? He asked. It is. Oh, well, many happy returns of the day, Eeyore. And many happy returns to you, Pooh Bear. But it isn't my birthday. No, it's mine. But you said happy many return. Well, why not? You don't always want to be miserable on my birthday, do you? Oh, I see, said Pooh. It's bad enough, said Eeyore, almost breaking down. Being miserable myself. What with no presents, no cake, no candles, no proper notice taken of me at all. But if everybody else is going to be miserable too. This was too much for Pooh. Stay there, he called to Eeyore as he turned and hurried back home as quickly as he could. He felt that he must get poor Eeyore a present of some sort at once, and he could always think of a proper one afterwards. Inside of his house, he found Piglet jumping up and down trying to reach the knocker. "Hello, Piglet," he said. "Hello, Pooh," said Piglet. "What are you trying to do?" "I was trying to reach the knocker," said Piglet. "I just came around." "Let me do it for you," said Pooh kindly. So he reached up and knocked at the door. "I've just seen Eeyore," he began, "and poor Eeyore is in a very sad condition, because it's his birthday and nobody has taken any notice of it. And he's very gloomy. You know what Eeyore is?" And there he was, and what a long time whoever lives here is answering this door. He knocked again. "Oh, Pooh," said Piglet, "it's your own house." "Oh," said Pooh. "So it is," he said. "Well, let's go in." So in they went. The first thing Pooh did was to go to the cupboard to see if he had quite a small jar of honey left. And he had, so he took it down. "I'm giving this to Eeyore," he explained, "as a present. What are you going to give?" "Couldn't I give it to you?" said Piglet. "From both of us?" "No," said Pooh. "That would not be a good plan." "All right, then I'll give him a balloon. I've got one left for my party. I'll go and get it now, shall I?" "That, Piglet, is a very good idea. It is just what Eeyore wants to cheer him up. Nobody can be uncheered with a balloon." So off Piglet trotted, and in the other direction went Pooh with his jar of honey. It was a warm day, and he had a long way to go. He hadn't gone more than halfway when a sort of funny feeling began to creep all over him. It began at the tip of his nose and trickled all through him and at the soles of his feet. It was just as if somebody inside him was saying, "Now then, Pooh, time for a little something." "Dear, dear," said Pooh, "I didn't know it was as late as that." So he sat down and took the top of his jar of honey. "Lucky I brought this with me," he thought. Many a bear going on a warm day like this would never have thought of bringing a little something with him. And he began to eat. "Now let me see," he thought as he took his last lick of the inside of the jar. "Where was I going? Oh yes, Eeyore." He got up slowly. And then, suddenly, he remembered. He had eaten Eeyore's birthday present. "Bother," said Pooh. "What shall I do? I must give him something." For a little while he couldn't think of anything. Then he thought, well, it's a very nice pot, even if there's no honey in it. And if I washed it clean and got somebody to write "Happy Birthday" on it, Eeyore would keep things in it, and it might be useful. So as he was just passing the 100-acre wood, he went inside to call an owl who lived there. "Good morning, Owl," he said. "Good morning, Pooh," said Owl. Many happy returns of Eeyore's birthday," said Pooh. "Oh, is that what it is? What are you giving him, Owl? What are you giving him, Pooh?" "I'm giving him a useful pot to keep things in, and I want to ask you—" "Is that it?" said Owl, taking it out of Pooh's paw. "Yes, and I wanted to ask you, somebody has been keeping honey in it," said Owl. "You can keep anything in it," said Pooh earnestly. "It's very useful like that. And I wanted to ask you, you have to write "Happy Birthday" on it." "That was what I wanted to ask you," said Pooh, "because my spelling is wobbly. It's a good spelling, but it wobbles, and the letters get in the wrong places. Would you write "Happy Birthday" on it for me?" "It's a nice pot," said Owl, looking at it all around. "Couldn't I give it to from the both of us?" "No," said Pooh, "that would not be a good plan. Now, I'll just wash it first, and then you can write on it." Well, he washed the pot out and dried it, while Owl licked the end of his pencil and wondered how to spell birthday. "Can you read, Pooh?" he asked a little anxiously. "There's a notice about knocking and ringing outside my door, which Christopher Robin wrote. Could you read it?" "Christopher Robin told me what it said, and then I could read it." "Well, I'll tell you what this says, and then you'll be able to." So Owl wrote, and this is what he wrote. "Hippy Pappy Birth third of the birthday. Pooh looked on admirably. I'm just saying a happy birthday, said Al carelessly. It's a nice long one, said Pooh, very much impressed by it. Well, actually, of course, I'm saying a very happy birthday with love from Pooh. Naturally, it takes a good deal of pencil to say a long thing like that. Oh, I see, said Pooh. While all this was happening, Piglet had gone back to his own house to get Eeyore's balloon. He held it very tightly against himself so it shouldn't blow away, and he ran as fast as he could so as to get to Eeyore before Pooh did, for he thought that he would like to be the first one to give a present, just as he had thought of it without being told by anybody. And running along and thinking how pleased Eeyore would be, he didn't look where he was going, and suddenly he put his foot in a rabbit hole, fell down flat on his face, bang. Piglet lay there wondering what had happened. At first he thought the whole world had blown up, and then he thought perhaps only the forest part of it had. And then perhaps only he had, and he was now alone in the moon or somewhere and would never see Christopher Robin or Pooh or Eeyore again. Then he thought, well, if I'm in the moon, I needn't be face downwards all the time, so he got cautiously up and looked around him. He was still in the forest. Well, that's funny, he thought. I wonder what that bang was. I couldn't have made such a noise just falling down. And where's my balloon? And what's that small piece of damp rag doing? It was the balloon. Oh dear, said Piglet. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dearie dear. Well, it's too late now. I can't go back, and I haven't another balloon. And perhaps Eeyore doesn't like balloons so very much. So he trotted on rather sadly now, and down he came to the side of the stream where Eeyore was and called out to him. Good morning, Eeyore, shouted Piglet. Good morning, Piglet, said Eeyore. If it is a good morning, he said. Which I doubt, said he. Not that it matters, he said. Many happy returns of the day, said Piglet, having now got closer. Eeyore stopped looking at himself in the stream and turned to stare at Piglet. Just say that again, he said. Many happy... Wait a moment. Bouncing on 3 legs, he began to bring his 4th leg very cautiously up to his ear. I did this yesterday, he explained as he fell down for the 3rd time. It's quite easy, it's so as I can hear better. There, that's done it. Now then, what were you saying? Pushed his ear forward with his hoof. Many happy returns of the day, said Piglet again. Meaning me? Of course, Eeyore. My birthday? Yes. Me having a real birthday? Yes, Eeyore, and I brought you a present. Eeyore took down his right hoof from his right ear, turned around with great difficulty, put up his left hoof. I must have that in the other ear, he said. Now then, a present, said Piglet very loudly. Meaning me again? Yes. My birthday still? Of course, Eeyore. Me going on having a real birthday? Yes, Eeyore, and I brought you a balloon. Balloon? Said Eeyore. You did say balloon? One of those big colored things you blow up? Gaiety, song, and dance. Here we are, and there we are. Yes, but I'm afraid... I'm very sorry, Eeyore, but when I was running along to bring it to you, I fell down. Dear, dear, how unlucky. You ran too fast, I expect. You didn't hurt yourself, little Piglet? No, but oh, Eeyore, I burst the balloon. There was a very long silence. My balloon, said Eeyore at last. Piglet nodded. My birthday balloon. Yes, Eeyore, said Piglet, sniffling a little. Here it is, with many happy returns in the day. And he gave Eeyore the small piece of damp rag. Is this it? Said Eeyore, a little surprised. Piglet nodded. My present. Piglet nodded again. The balloon. Yes. Thank you, Piglet, said Eeyore. You don't mind my asking, he went on. Well, what color was this balloon when it was a balloon? Red. I just wondered. Red, he murmured to himself. My favorite color. How big was it? About as big as me. I just wondered. About as big as Piglet, he said to himself sadly. My favorite size. Well, well. Piglet felt very miserable and didn't know what to say. He was still opening his mouth to begin something and then deciding that it wasn't a good saying that. And when he heard a shout from the other side of the river, and there was Pooh. Many happy returns of the day, called out Pooh, forgetting he had said it already. Thank you, Pooh. I'm having them, said Eeyore gloomily. I brought you a little present, said Pooh excitedly. I've had it, said Eeyore. Pooh had now splashed across the stream to Eeyore, and Piglet was sitting a little way off, his head in his paws, snuffling to himself. It's a useful pot, said Pooh. Here it is, and it's got a very happy birthday with love from Pooh written on it. That's what all that writing is. It's for putting things in. There. When Eeyore saw the pot, he became quite excited. Why, he said, I believe my balloon will just go into that pot. Oh no, Eeyore, said Pooh. Balloons are much too large to go into pots. What do you do with a balloon is if you hold the balloon. Not mine, said Eeyore proudly. Look, Piglet. And as Piglet looked sorrowfully around, Eeyore picked the balloon up with his teeth and placed it carefully in the pot, and picked it out and put it on the ground, and then picked it up again and put it carefully back. So does it, said Pooh. It goes in. So does it, said Piglet, and it comes out. Doesn't it, said Eeyore. It goes in and out like anything. I'm very glad, said Pooh happily, that I thought of giving you a useful pot to put things in. I'm very glad, said Piglet happily, that I thought of giving you something to put in a useful pot. But Eeyore wasn't listening. He was taking the balloon out and putting it back in, as happy as could be. And didn't I give him anything? Asked Christopher Robin sadly. Of course you did, I said. You gave him... Don't you remember a little... I gave him a box of paints to paint things with. That was it. Why didn't I give it to him in the morning? You were so busy getting his party ready for him. He had a cake with icing on the top and 3 candles and his name in pink sugar and... Yes, I remember, said Christopher Robin. Whew. All right. My throat is starting to hurt. And I'm still sleepy. But we got through 6 chapters, I believe. Let me see. Oh my god, this book is so bulky. Ow. Yeah, we got through 6 chapters. I bonked myself on the head. Good job. Alright, and that is our reading for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, and or evening in whichever part of the world you're in. And I will see everybody next week. Bye, my Valentinis. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I'm awake. Were you asleep? Did you fall asleep? But yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I had fun reading. I'm sorry if I was falling asleep in the beginning. I'll try to be more well rested next time. But but for sure I am gonna put on my fan at a low setting and go to sleep like that, because no way am I gonna go through like less than like 4 hours of sleep again. Too tired, too tired. Alright, bye Valentinis, I love you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Suseki. Thank you, Bryant. Thank you, Papa. Thank you, La Dog. Thank you, Feilong. Bye, everybody. I love you. Love you, love you. Bye, everybody. See you next week.